Yeah, so my name is Tuomas Keränen, and I work as a product manager at Eficode. I'm responsible for our Devops Platform offering, Eficode Root. And welcome on my behalf as well to this breakfast event. So my plan is to use this slot for talking about centralized platforms in general and about Eficode Root in particular. So what are these centralized platforms for? And that's one question I have to answer. And the other one is that if you start using one of these, how to do it in a coordinated way without creating a mess. And I'm basing this presentation on the experience we have gathered from tens of software assembly line related projects during the past 10 years or so. So a few words about our DevOps offering, about its history. So we've been in the software development, optimization and automation consultancy business since 2007, so more than 10 years today. And which means that the first continuous integration systems were installed with our clients around that time. And if you look at our project portfolio today, I just went through the customer files yesterday, and we have over 80 DevOps-related activities running right now together with our clients. So I'm talking about test automation, CI/CD system setup, cloud infrastructure automation, and so forth, along with the platform services that we offer under the Eficode Root brand here. And currently, we have more than 130 DevOps consultants, engineers, support and maintenance personnel, and so forth, out of the around 250 people that we have at Eficode altogether. Eficode Root has been in our service offering since 2014. I joined Eficode myself 2016. So Eficode Root in this shape and form that I'm going to present it today, it's been around a bit less than 5 years. And if you add all the customer-specific platform instances together, today we have roughly 15,000 individual users for Eficode Root. What we offer to our customers today, give or take a few functional blocks. So this is our reference architecture. So it is a starting point for an individual customer-specific platform design. It's pre-integrated so that all the tools that are part of this reference architecture, they talk to one another. So basically, we have document management and requirement management systems here, typically Jira or Confluence from the Atlassian portfolio. We have the CI pipeline here in the middle. Then we are able to deliver and set up different types of environments with the tooling included in the system. Then we have tools for monitoring and analytics. But the basic idea is that the code flows through this direction, begins from version control, ends up in running into an environment, and then feedback goes the other way around. So basically, we're getting feedback all the way from the environments from the deployments, testing, code analysis, version control, all the way back to the developer. So code goes this way, and then feedback comes the other way, back to the developer. And as you can see, we are using plenty of Atlassian tools to be part of the reference architecture here. Although we support also other tools. So this is flexible. The architecture itself is quite flexible. So should a customer want another alternative instead of a specific tool here, it's of course possible to replace these tools with alternatives here. So it's not fixed. It's not set in stone. It's just a starting point, like I said. And by Devops Platform here, we mean a complete, highly automated software assembly line. And it covers everything from requirement management to the automated deployments, like I said. And some people talk about software factory, so you can think of the platform here as a software, kind of a factory assembly line, and the customer projects are then operating on top of it. So having a platform like this alone doesn't make you DevOps capable. I mean, it doesn't help. It doesn't automatically provide you with all the benefits that Mika just discussed. But it creates a foundation for everything else. It's a foundation for the cultural transformation that you need to still go through in order to be fully DevOps capable. This is meant to be a shared platform. which means that once you start using a platform like this, you no longer have project-specific throwaway assembly lines. Or at least you would have like a significantly smaller number of those project-specific lines, assembly lines. So all the projects that you are running should be using more or less the same environment. Of course, some additional tools may be required because of technology choices and so forth, but the assembly line itself, the core of it, should be the same. So how do you then take a platform like this, which is fairly complex? If you look at it, there are plenty of tools here. How do you take one of these into use without creating a mess inside the organization? So we have a few recommendations based on our experience so far. So what you should do is that you take like a few example projects, one or two of them, and you dive deep. You start using each and every stage of this system just to see how it works as a pipeline. And then with the rest of the portfolio, you use a more stepwise approach that I'm going to talk about here. So step one here would be to start building organizational robustness. So you eliminate single points of failures from the system, which means that the information, all the project-related information, it belongs to the team that is in charge of delivering the system, not to individuals. And all the information, critical project information, should be contained by the platform, meaning the tools that I just showed you. Then as a second step, or as a kind of another part of this first step here, while you're creating organizational robustness, is to control change, which basically means that you always have up-to-date visibility to the system state. So that enables then efficient problem tracing and rollbacks in case you have a failure in the system. You know exactly the state of the system before you made a change. Then it's easy to roll back to the previous version if something goes wrong with what you've added to the system. Then it means that no code changes or environment configuration should be applied directly to production. So everything always goes through the version control as a rule of thumb. Then all project requirements, quality criteria, task descriptions, bug reports, incident reports, all of them are in the project management system, like Jira, for example. Then all the project deliverables, all code, meaning the application code, test code, infrastructure configurations and definitions, installable packages eventually, and so forth, they are systematically available in version control and in the artifact storage. And if all of this is done, then surprisingly little additional critical documentation needs to be written and maintained. Of course, you'll still need the architecture diagrams for the overall architecture of the system. You need the customer documentation and so forth. But all the critical information that you need in order to be able to sort of develop the system further is contained by the platform. Then, as a last point here, the last point here relates to communication. So you should get rid of slow and exclusive communication mechanisms like email, where you basically, as a sender of an email, you set the group that is going to receive the information. And by definition, the email is, because of that reason, it's exclusive. You exclude a lot of people from the communication when you pick your people to the recipient field. So instead of doing that, you should use modern messaging systems like Slack or Microsoft Teams or Flowdoc or alike, which are more inclusive. So they are topic oriented and people can join and leave the channels as they wish. So this sort of enables the transparent flow of information across the team boundaries. That is highly critical from the DevOps, culture perspective. Okay, and this is how it looks like on the platform side. So you need to establish the sources of truth that contain all the critical information about the project. And these sources of truth, they belong to the team. They don't belong to any specific individual. They belong to the whole team. So you have all the requirements and all the kind of project workflows and requirements and defects, quality gate definitions. You have them in the project management systems, or they may be documented separately in Confluence, let's say, if necessary. All the code, like I said, all of it, like application test, infrastructure code is in version control. And if something is not, if something is code and it's not in version control, it doesn't exist. I mean, that's the easy way to put it. It's as good as it wouldn't exist at all if it's not in version control. Then all the installable packages and their dependencies are in the artifact storage. And then you have the document management system for all the necessary documentation that is not already available in the rest of the tools. Then, as a next step here, so this is one of the things that you should focus on first, creating these sources of truth and making sure that all the information remains as a team property instead of it belonging to individuals. And once that's done, you can start enabling the faster throughput. And with faster high throughput here, I mean faster feature delivery. So you basically deliver more value faster to your end clients. And like Mika already said, you should aim at having predictable short release cycles, which means that the agility in the system extends from the development all the way to the operations and beyond. So you release small and you release often. That's the sort of a simple rule. You should also enable short feedback cycles. So when, as a developer, when I make a change to the system, I should get the feedback in, let's say, 5 minutes instead of days. With some of our clients, we've even set up an SLA that says that, okay, if the developer is not able to get basic feedback on the commit he's made in 5 minutes, it's an SLA breach. There is no enough processing power in the system to enable it.
What do you mean by feedback here?
Feedback here means like feedback from the regression, I mean automated testing, deployments, and so forth. And you don't reach these feedback cycles unless you have plenty of automation. So everything repetitive should be automated. Deployments, testing, everything should be automated that can be automated, if I simplify it a bit. Which means that there is less manual work, there's less hand time in the process. Which means that you are able to get the feedback faster, and the overall system that you're running is also cheaper than the previous one with plenty of manual testing. Then you should have on-demand test and development environments, which means that you spin up the servers when you need them, you install the software there, run the tests, and once you're done, you'll tear down the systems once they are no longer needed. And this often requires efficient use of cloud infrastructure. So some organizations still spend days or even weeks waiting for servers to arrive from the IT, and that shouldn't be acceptable. This is, of course, how it looks like from the platform perspective. So all builds, testing, deployments, even delivery to production can be automatically triggered by changes in the version control. So you have fast feedback coming back to the developer from automated quality gates that are part of the process here. Code analysis maybe should be highlighted as well, and then you have the automated testing features. And then you have capability to roll back to the previous version, since you know exactly the system state at every point of time. And then you have cloud-based infra, or otherwise flexible infra, which allows you to have pay-as-you-go computing and storage resources. And all of this sort of saves both time and resources in the project, and improves the throughput, and eventually also enhances the quality of the output coming out of the pipeline at the end, as the bugs are found earlier in the pipeline. Then, all right, now you have like a robust organization, you have single sources of truth, and then you're able to deliver faster than before. So what to look at as a next step here? You should start creating visibility to the pipeline. One of sort of fairly basic things to monitor in the beginning especially is simply tool usage. So are the teams actually using the tools the way they should be used? this gives you a basic view to the DevOps methodology adoption. It's a simplistic view, but it's a view still. Because we have some client organizations that go through, the teams, and then they make questions, and then they start filling like Excel files. And that's the way for them to track the DevOps maturity inside the organization. But while this information is readily available from the tools, if you have the correct dashboards in place, you should always also demand up-to-date quality information. So if the quality reports are again written by hand, by some quality assurance people somewhere, while they get to the people who are actually using the data to see how the quality should be improved and so forth, it's already historical data, especially if you're moving ahead in DevOps speed, in fast cycles. So you should always demand for up-to-date, real-time quality information from the system. Then you should be measuring the project's performance, like throughput. So how long does it take on average to get a feature out of the pipeline, or through the pipeline? Where are the bottlenecks? So which step in this process takes the longest time relative to the other stages? Then you start removing them. And while you are doing this, you should sort of gather the data over time so that you would have like a historical view to the data as well. Because eventually the idea would be that you would be able to use that historical data for predictive analysis. So once you know enough of the way that the projects have behaved in the past, you may be able to start recognizing patterns that may indicate that something is maybe failing. You may get an indication that it begins to look like if a certain project is not able to meet the timeline or schedule, or the quality targets that have been set in the beginning of the project and so forth. And this is potentially also an application area for artificial intelligence, so that once you have enough performance data available across the project portfolio, you may be able to start, by using certain algorithms and rules, you may be able to start recognizing the projects that may end up in trouble unless you do something. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have concrete examples of this monitoring and analytics in so something to really see? Because of course, I see a lot of different kind of dashboards from different tools that they are on the CI pipeline.
Yeah.
But when you really speak about monitoring the whole flow from the beginning to the end, and we have all the different 10 or 15 different kind of tools in the CI pipeline. So what kind of monitoring and analytics you really have in order to achieve what you just told? So like any concrete examples about what kind of how they look like and what they are measuring, and how do you like track them or like connect them in that pipeline and so on?
Yeah, I think that would be like a topic for completely separate presentations. But thank you for the question, because we do have some ideas here. So on top of everything, I mean, most of these tools that are part of the platform, otherwise, as you saw, are sort of commercial tools available from the marketplace. Some tools that devs and operations people are already familiar with. But we have also recognized that there are certain gaps in the system that you're not able to fill by simply taking an existing tool from the markets. So we have built some analytics capability of our own here, and we've also built some capability to offer centralized access control system for the platform as a whole. So this is where Eficode has invested a bit on the R&D side, and we do have some examples. So we have some default dashboards that we offer to our clients, out of the box. So the idea is that we have a system, a data gathering system. We gather data from all stages, from all these individual tools that are part of the process. We store that data to a database, and then we are able to read it from there to these dashboards. And these are just examples. I'm not going to go to the details because there's a lot of it. I mean, plenty of detail here. But this, for example, this is a view that allows you to see how a certain specific project is using the tools. So issue and document management. Do they have Jira in use? It's so bad resolution that I can't even read it myself. Do they have version control in use? What sort of test automation do they use? Do they have artifact management in use, monitoring in use? What are they doing in the CI/CD pipeline, and so forth? So that's like the fairly simple view to the DevOps methodology adoption.
And if you know the project, you do not need a dashboard for that because you know.
Yeah, but this is mostly for people who are maybe not that kind of closely involved in the day-to-day work, and they want to still have a view to the way that the projects operate across the portfolio. If you are deeply involved in this activity, it's true. This is something that you already know. Then we have just a couple of more examples here. So this is a view for management. First of all, I mean the structure with this track and drive feature is such that we have domain-specific information. We have a separate dashboard for each of the domains: and development, operations, quality, and management. So this happens to be the management dashboard. So there is information related to the project performance. So you have like list of ongoing tickets, blockers that you have identified or the team has identified. You have information how the work is being split, between the team members, quality indicators. This is the latest run you had in the CI/CD pipeline. Then we have another dashboard for the developers, especially. So this shows the branching structure and build-related data, and then quality information. And the idea is that if you as a developer do something, you commit a new piece of code to the mainline branch here, then the impact or effect of the change will sort of become visible across the team boundaries here. So you are able to see what the change that you made, how does it look like from the quality perspective, how does it look like from the management perspective, and so forth. And then we have other dashboards that focus on the project level, like creating summaries of all the data, and then portfolio level that goes even another layer up that gives you a view to the portfolio. How does the portfolio look like from all of these perspectives? So we do have some default dashboards available. Of course, these are adjustable, so that should there be a metric that is missing from here, and which is desired by one of our clients, we can then implement it here, of course, as well. So this is not fixed or set in stone again. You can modify this quite freely. Then, all right, so then a couple of words about efficient supplier collaboration. So now I'm looping back to some of our clients like OP. So they need, clearly, since they're using outsourcing, as many of our clients are, they need better visibility and control over the outsourced activities. And this is typically one of the key reasons why they choose to build a centralized platform, because it allows you to have that visibility to everything that you do, whether it's internal or external work. So there are many benefits coming out of this centralized platform from the supplier collaboration perspective as well. So all the valuable assets that you are creating and paying for, like the source code and IPR, everything that you're creating, it never goes missing, because everything is, again, like I said, it's stored in the system and it's eternally available. And this is very useful in case you're, for example, handing over the work from the development to maintenance phase. This simply maybe, if you have the separation of maintenance and development people, the people will change, but the project and the production line itself doesn't. It's always there, available. It's always available, the platform. So when you start a new project, no matter if it's internal or external or supplier provided activity or project, the production line is already there. So it's fairly simple for you to start new activity. You don't have to start the activity by setting up a custom tool chain. You simply start using tools that are already available. So the ramp up is faster than in many other scenarios. Then you have reduced vendor lock-in if everybody's working on this centralized platform. So when you are switching vendors, let's say, you don't have to go through a tedious migration activity. I mean, switching stuff from one custom production line to another custom production line. Changing a vendor is, if I simplify it a bit again, it's simply a matter of changing the access rights to this particular project that runs on top of this centralized platform. And then once you have the drag and drive capabilities, you are able to have this visibility, end to end across the pipeline. Then you are able to see what actually happens in the projects if they are supplied by an external vendor. And you are, at some point at least of time, you are able to compare between suppliers. How well do they take advantage of the features that you enabled through this pipeline? How efficiently are they delivering code? What's the throughput? Where are the bottlenecks? All of that becomes visible as well. So you no longer have to rely on the kind of supplier reports only. You are able to go to the metrics and see with your own eyes how the suppliers are actually using the tools.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Doesn't doing everything with Eficode Root create vendor lock-in by itself as well?
All of these systems that we build are customer specific. They are, in a way, in a typical scenario, we are in charge of setting up the system. We maintain these systems. We have proactive maintenance. We make sure that these platforms are always up and running. We make sure that support is available should the teams need it. And then that's it. That's our role. So if somebody is not happy with the work that we do on the maintenance side, we can be removed from the equation. So the tools here are basically fairly generic tools that are available in the marketplace, excluding, of course, the drag and drive part as well as the centralized access management. So I think the vendor lock-in in our case is of course there is certain sort of dependency to us. There is no way to go around that fact, but it's not that sort of deep, the vendor lock-in. Because in a way, the system always belongs to the customer. It's a single tenant instance, built exclusively for a single customer.
Can I ask also a question related to this? Because I was thinking exactly the same.
Yeah.
So kind of like of course, all the tools that you mentioned in this chart are like freely available, and
Yes.
many are using these ones, and even built like a CI pipeline or the whole development pipeline using these tools.
Yeah.
But kind of, what's the root? Eficode Root is it actually a service?
It's
putting these kind of like a piece of blocks together, or is it really some offering that you really have? So is it a service offering, or do you really have some platform?
It's sort of both. So we do have a pre-integrated platform. So let's say that you don't have a platform yet, and you would like to take a fast track. You would like to have this kind of a platform in place as soon as possible. So for that we have that reference architecture available. So all the tools are pre-integrated. We have automated all its installation processes so that from the order, within a few days, you have a fully up and running, platform instance at your use. So from that perspective, it's a technical solution. But it's also a service. So the idea is that once we've installed the platform, once it's up and running, we are more than happy to offer the support and maintenance services so that you don't have to maintain the platform by yourself. You can focus on running the projects on top of it, but you don't have to pay too much attention on the way that the tools are configured or available in the first place. So we take care of that later. But the teams, that kind of brings me to my next topic here, but the teams, the customer teams, they are responsible for actually running the projects on top of the platform. So that's where the kind of division of responsibility is set.
Isn't it quite unique situation today that there is some company coming with no tools in use?
It's not.
So meaning, I would say, is it more that maybe I don't know enough, but I was just thinking it's kind of no-brainer to have these tools in place, at least like partially.
It happens still, believe it or not. It happens. Somebody comes to us and then we will set up this reference architecture more or less like it is. We also have cases where the customer also may have these tools in use, but still they have noticed that they don't want to focus on keeping on the tool maintenance part, and that's where we come to the
I
picture.
have some experience. It's
Yeah.
actually a big hassle to keep all these small tools up and
Yeah.
running and up to date. So I don't want to take anything away from the value that Eficode is delivering. But
Yeah, so
it's a huge
that's
hassle to.
yeah. So that's another So that's another
I
kind of
agree, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like a more case also like a coming
Yeah.
that like how about the customer who has like almost everything there,
Yeah.
would like to maybe like focus more on the core that is the business value and not about the
That's exactly the point here. So let's say that if you have all these tools in use already, I mean, it makes it fairly easy for us
Yeah.
to take responsibility of the support and maintenance part. That's why we have chosen the tools the way they are chosen. I mean, they are quite commonly used.
Yeah, so kind of like
Yeah.
switching from current pipeline or setup to Eficode Root, which is in this case a service, is kind of
Yeah.
like as it's a service only, so you should feel like it's just moving from in-house maintenance to like maintaining by yourself.
Exactly. So then your people who are currently maybe maintaining the tools, they can focus on something more value-adding, like making sure that the projects are using the tools in the most efficient way. You don't have to care about making sure that the tools themselves are available. You simply focus on on getting to the point where you have faster delivery cycles and the feedback flows through as it should and so forth. Yeah, so that's I would say that this is more typical case. So we still have clients that come to us and say that okay, we are sort of newbies in this area. Can you provide us with a ready-made pre-integrated solution? And we are glad to do that. I mean, it's available, it's easy to do for us, we can set it up and so forth. But a more typical case nowadays is that our clients are already familiar with these tools. But there are they've seen that it's not their sort of core competence to run these tools. They should be doing something else with their valuable time. So then there is clearly a role for us.
And there's also a quite general case of talking with a customer who might have these tools in use, but for example have a different tool per team. So you might have an organization which has 5 instances of Jenkins that are of different version, that are of using different plugins. So kind of to have that all centralized. And especially when we're talking about the software that actually requires paid licenses. It's better to have one well-maintained Jira than 10 Jiras around the organization and paying for 10 licenses.
So do you fancy doing those integrations from 10 different Jiras to one centralized Jira?
Yes, we do those as well.
Not as much integrations as usually migrations.
Migrations. Yes. Yeah, I think that's what you referred to.
Yeah.
Migrations. Yeah. So integrating all these instances together, maybe not, but sort of combining them to a single system. That's we do have these projects, up and running today even. Right. So this sort of your question takes me to the next slide here. So it's about clear roles and responsibilities. So like I already said, the idea is that this sort of a platform, no matter who provides the service and so forth, it should be self-service platform. So the DevOps teams that are running their projects on top of it, they are actually responsible for the project outcome, the quality, speed, everything. But the common platform approach doesn't work unless the platform is properly maintained and supported. And especially in the beginning, when you're onboarding projects to the system, they typically need quite a bit of help and expertise. But eventually, they should be able to run the systems by themselves, or run the projects on top of this system by themselves. If you don't maintain these tools, if the maintenance is neglected, and we've seen a lot of it, the platform will gradually break and become unsecure, because if it's not maintained and patched properly, proactively. If the security updates are not installed, if the performance enhancing patches are not installed, gradually the system will sort of rot away. So you'll need support and maintenance people who take care of the assembly line. That's clear, and they could be internal, they could be external, they could be sort of a mixture of these, but you'll need them. And then it's sort of a good question whether maintaining the platform and keeping the tools themselves up and running is the core competence you want to invest in, or whether that is something that should be bought from outside. Right.
It kind of makes sense to outsource most of that, but completely let go of competence on those. That's foolish as well. Because how do you know what you're buying if you don't know what you're buying?
Typically, we have. I mean, in a typical scenario, I think you're right. And in a typical scenario, still some expertise remains on the customer side. So you would have a few admin users for the system who sort of know the tools. They know how the tools behave. They do know how to configure the tools and so forth. And our role in that case is maybe if you have a skilled people on the client side, it's sort of a less responsibility for us in certain ways. So there's less on-demand support requests coming to our direction because you already have people inside the organization who are able to help the users. The guys who are involved in the day-to-day, work in the projects and so forth, making sure that everything runs smoothly. But still, I mean, we are there to make sure that the tools are properly maintained and support is available should it be needed. Of course, certain things like extending the platform with new functionality, installing plugins and such, they are something that we always take care of because we are responsible for making sure that everything runs smoothly, nothing breaks. So that's we are very coordinated from that perspective. So when you install a new version of a certain tool, or you install a new plugin to an existing tool, we want to first we need to make sure that nothing breaks before we do that. Because we have the SLAs, we are in charge of making sure that the system is always available. So there are certain things that we must do always, but it's very client specific what the client itself is sort of willing to do and should do on top of it. So that varies quite a bit. Right, so just to kind of wrap this up, so even though having these tools available, it's pretty clear it doesn't make you fully DevOps capable, but it's sort of a starting point also for the cultural transformation. So if you do everything that we have spoken about today, it's sort of the culture in a way has already changed. The people are using the version control. They are sort of delivering fast in small pieces. They have the visibility. Everything is there. So if you implement all these tools and you get the projects actually to accept all these ideas, I mean, the cultural transformation has at least partially already happened. So you have these single sources of truth. You have enabled the end-to-end agility, and then you have the visibility through the track and track. And like I said, I mean, having this sort of a centralized platform, of course, with some flexibility, project-specific tuning, capability, has many advantages over having like multiple process-specific assembly lines. And then coming back to the last question, or the second last question you made, you need to plan carefully where to invest your own resources, where to focus your own resources. So, and then what to buy from outside.